So this is what we do. We gather up big data, and then we put it in a form that's usable and relevant for advertising. This is huge, huge, very, very important to us. So today we're going to talk about a campaign we ran with Meguiars, and I'm going to introduce our lovely panel mates right here. We've got Matt from Forward.
And I'm Kristin. I'm the pesky client from Meguiars. So,
Next slide. Yes, please.
So for those of you that don't know Meguiars, we're the leader in car care. So we sell to Walmart, Target, as well as AutoZone, Advance, etc. We've been doing mobile for a few years very successfully for our market. And my push onto Forward and to Matt here has been how can we keep making mobile more effective for us? And that took taking it more local, pairing it with our retail promotions, and how can we start seeing that in terms of sales? So I definitely had the big ROI question that I'm sure you hear from your clients all the time. And really happy with this test because it did result in a 118% lift for us in our controlled markets.
Yeah, so we basically what we do at Forward, one of our core efforts is really built around shopper and mobile marketing, and how can we support retailers or customers at a hyperlocal level. And basically, PlaceIQ, what they do is help us bring more relevance to that message, right? So there's actually a fairly complex and scientific approach to how we select the priority markets that we're hoping to focus on, and we helped. By working with Meguiars, we get some insight into sales data and at the retail level, and then using PlaceIQ to really bring some more relevance to that.
So the challenge here wasn't kind of this one-off geofencing task. It wasn't kind of something that was specific to mobile. The challenge was just basic business. How can we better leverage Meguiars' media dollars and engage consumers around key stores and priority markets? So knowing that, first we looked at the audience we wanted to reach. And PlaceIQ built this consumer journey of automotive moments. This targeted kind of recent car purchasers, either used or new, and kind of reaching within those households. Further, we targeted the automotive moments of the day. So when were the relevant times which messaging actually matter? We don't want to deliver while you're shopping for clothes. But if you're shopping for auto parts or anything automotive related, accessories, we're very interested in talking to you then. Then we also put this target of automotive commuters. So we're getting there when you're in, close, near, or around your car. So building this, we were able to deliver ads to these times and places that we mapped these tiles to the world. And once we mapped these tiles to the markets that we wanted to reach, we knew when and where we should deliver our ads, or at least in theory. And the next big thing is making sure we had creative that was relevant to the context. So we're relevant to the consumer journey for the client. Now let's make sure that we're delivering messaging which is relevant to that space.
Yeah, and that's huge because we spend a lot of time in analyzing what markets we should be focused on, and a lot of the conversations around today is just the importance of really the ability that you have with mobile to really get so much closer in terms of proximity to location, proximity to purchase, and that's obviously incredibly important, but its proximity isn't always just location, right? It's not just proximity in terms of distance to store, distance to purchase. It's very much so about hitting proximity in terms of mindset as well. And again, that's what all this data really helps us enhance our mobile targeting with.
So in this case, we've built kind of once we've identified these contexts where automotive messaging is relevant. So now we, instead of having a geofence just around the store, we have little geofences around these moments, these tiles that we've identified in the PlaceIQ system. So we're delivering to the automotive moments, and then we're pushing in messaging that's relevant. The time this campaign ran was in the spring, which was kind of this automotive cleaning and refresh cycle, which was highly relevant to Meguiars products, and this is when we generally saw movement and pickup. So we brought in engaging messaging that we could pull in. And do you remember what the engagement numbers were?
Well, we had a number of different creative units, and it did tend to vary by market, and certainly we looked even more granular in terms of what days of the week. The response rates tend to we tended to see lift with. But we actually ran some rich media and standard banners. The most interesting part probably was with the rich media. We had a pretty playful, fun experience where you could sort of wipe the car clean with your hand, and we saw about a 27-second average interaction time, which was really, when you think about it, you can compare that to the 30-second spot. And that's somebody actually engaging with your ad voluntarily. So really powerful.
Cool. So how did we do? How did this campaign do? This is where we kind of start to report back on this. By the kind of mobile metrics that are, the lingua franca here. Next slide. We did well, and this is kind of the click-through chart you see. We did 109% lift versus similarly placed CPMs. And this is great. We were able to perform and prove that our targeting was more relevant, at least in terms of clicks. This is what we end up saying for most of our presentations. But we were interested in the next number, which was a real pleasure to see. So we ran in both control and exposed markets, and we were able to compare sales figures for AutoZone and what was the second? Advanced Auto Parts. And we were able to compare across 2 different retailers in 2 markets, control and exposed. And we were able to show that the ads where we were running had 118% sales lift. And we were even able to look and start to see that as we kind of pushed impressions for that early seasonal message, we saw the sales lift correspond with that lift. We kind of waited earlier, and we saw the sales pick up and spike right after that dip.
Yeah, so there were some really, really interesting trends even beyond that too. I mean, we're able to go back and look at when you run across a number of different markets, and of course we try to minimize as many variables as possible within exposed and control. But you're also able to look at things like, based on market sizes, how much do we need to spend to really have an impact? And then we even saw things like in some of the smaller markets, like a Cleveland, for example, versus a Chicago, right? We were able to see that we actually had even more significant impact in those markets. That tells us not only that hey, this actually works, that's great, but it also gives us the ability to start to build out capabilities around how much to spend in each market to move the needle. So that not only brings back ROI for Meguiars, but it also empowers their sales team when they're talking to their customers. That tells them, we can support you, or even start to put together, co-branded efforts to move the needle in certain markets, or even you start to talk about things like SKU defense and trying to defend against competition in certain markets if there's a new product coming out from one of their competitors, right? So there's really it's much more than just the one campaign ROI, which is really what's fascinating about it.
So one of the challenges as a big data company that's kind of hard in the market is making sure you don't get caught up and kind of fall in love with your data for the sake of the data. And I think being able to package that in almost, I wouldn't say boring, but it works with the way that we speak now. And I think this was one of the reasons I really liked this campaign, is that it was a very clear business problem that you might present to a TV brief or a digital brief or a mobile brief or even just a PR brief, which is we just want to move same-source sales. And with that brief, we can build a consumer journey that we already kind of knew and defined and was already part of a kind of Meguiar's audience to begin with. And then deliver that within this hyperlocal, hyper-targeted market. And now we can deliver figures that we can go back and start addressing other business needs. But then on top of that, we can go back into that data, and that's where we can kind of start to plus this up, and we can start learning against all those impressions we delivered. So because of the way PlaceIQ's product is structured, we can see signals in each of the tiles that we may or may not have been targeting. So if we target something that we feel is an automotive commuter moment, that tile may be far and away an automotive commuter moment, but there might be other signals. And we can check to see when those presence of signals started to correlate with higher performance. Further, we ran some of the media open, so we can start to learn more about these campaigns. So based on the metrics of this campaign and where we saw click-through, we can qualify this what we call just a lean-forward behavior. So in Houston, we saw that a younger audience, college students and young adults, were hugely leaning forward. We weren't explicitly targeting these people, but it turns out that they were really engaged with our messaging. In Washington, blue-collar workers and military were delivering click-throughs of 1.8 and 1.79. So if we started putting more weight against that, I expect that CTR to normalize, but it still starts to tell us where we should go from there. And better than that, hopefully we can start to learn some insights that we can take back not only to mobile, but to additional marketing campaigns. So how might you use this data?
Well, I would definitely think about it in terms of what type of imagery I'm using. I mean, we already segment and talk about our creative based on markets and try to relate our creative to the market that's hit. But I would use it definitely for what type of other partners I use in terms of radio when I do remotes at stores and certain things. And so what time of day I'm using and targeting my radio by as well. So it would complement a lot of my other types of promotions and other media efforts.
Cool. So that's what we do at PlaceIQ and do with some of our partners, with Meguiars and Forward. We take lots and lots of location data, turn that into audiences that play nicely with the rest of your buy, and we can start making mobile and hyperlocal equal players at that media table, and then start delivering the insights that we know are behind that. And further, we can generate ROI, which is really pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's really important too, the theme is that it can work, right? And we're obviously only talking about, this is a very media-driven campaign. It's really just one component of what mobile can do and should be as part of the sort of overall mobile marketing strategy. But when you start to see numbers like this, it justifies further investment, whether that's more investing further in custom or mobile-specific assets that we've talked about, or even spending more on more time and energy towards developing the site and start to build out things like our text loyalty program, or even start to play with app development and in-store activation. And when you have these numbers, even if it's very media-driven, it allows you to start to further invest in other channels. So.
For the clients that are out there, I mean, there's that constant sort of sales and marketing fight, and no matter what you present sometimes to sales is not good enough, and they know that, they can still run a promotion in field and see lift. So this really helps from a sales side to talk to my sales force about how I can help promote the dollars that they're already spending with the retailers and help make it be more effective. So in essence, try to lower that co-op cost, or help let them think about what kind of deals they're trying to put out there and what we can support. And then the retailers love it because, you're specifically tagging them and driving them to their store.
All right.
Thank you
Questions
very much.
from the audience? Everyone always asks me, bring more case studies. Show me how mobile makes money. Well, this was a great example. Any questions out there? Going once. I'm looking. God, everyone's so quiet today. I guess they need the alcohol
Hungry.
or something. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.